home ownership, but also educates them on financial literacy and generational wealth. Beyond real estate, Tayla is a dynamic radio host and an executive producer, sparking critical conversations on politics, social justice, and community change. Her advocacy work extends to initiatives like the White Stadium Project and leadership roles in organizations like C Plan. A dedicated mother, author, and mentor, Tayla André is a trailblazer committed to breaking barriers and building legacies. I present to you Tayla André.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Very well. Very excited to be here.
All right. So, from hosting thought provoking radio segments to closing international real estate deals, your career spans so many spaces.
Mhm.
How do you connect the dots between the roles to create a cohesive vision for who Tayla André is?
Uh, I think it's about being authentically who you are. When you kind of look at it on paper, real estate, radio, financial literacy, politics, they don't exactly like line up. They don't, merge together like a perfect puzzle piece. But when you think about who is Tayla André, whether it's one of my clients or someone who's just met me, you would know that that makes sense. And so just being my authentic self and being able to express myself in all ways that I know how to is how I'm able to kind of piece them together in a meaningful way where it does not just make sense, but work together cohesively.
Whether it's through political activism, real estate, or your work with organizations like C Plan and Spark FM, what drives you to challenge the status quo in so many industries? And actually, can you go in to explain what C Plan and Spark FM are?
Yes. And so I am the founding member of C Plan, which is the Collaborative Parent Leadership Action Network. It came out of a need here in Boston, Massachusetts, where parents were forced to make decisions on our children's education without being properly informed on what those decisions, regardless of what, we were voting on questions. And regardless of how we voted on questions, we weren't exactly understanding what that meant for our children. And so my biggest thing is about like informed decisions. I want to make sure that I have all the information that I need in order to make an informed decision for not just the right now, but long term. And we know politically it is sometimes our people are known for voting against our best interests. And so it was important to me to have a better understanding of what did this vote mean at this time? And not just that, what other rights do I have as a parent? I know my responsibilities, but what are my rights when it comes to my children's education and the decisions that are made on the political level? And so C-Plan was birthed out of that need to give parents control and a better understanding so they could make informed decisions that benefited their children's future, not just current in the moment decisions. And so being a founding member of C Plan and now a board member means the world to me. It means that I get to help other parents be educated so they can make better decisions for their children, regardless of what that means or the circumstance or situation that that child may be in. Next Leadership Development is another board that I sit on. That's a nonprofit that specifically focuses on Black people. And so we have a lot of organizations that are like for the betterment of the community. And Next Leadership Development Corporation, or Next Leads, as it's affectionately known, is a nationwide organization that's like, what do Black people need on a policy level? What is it that Black people need? And when, we take a look at like DEI initiatives and who benefits, seldomly is it Black and brown people that benefit, but it's mostly white women. So while we are, for the betterment of the Black people, we have seen years after years, decisions after decisions, that it means that when the tide rises, all boats lift. And so I say that to say that for me, I believe very much so that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And so I'm motivated by the desire for what makes sense and what is for the good of all, with a specific lens on how does it benefit people that have been marginalized every step of the way.
Hello?
Yes. Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes, I can. It sounded like it broke off for a while. Yeah, that's awesome. So, as a mom, mentor, and mogul, how do you balance the deep personal aspects of your life with the public facing roles of radio personality, author, and community leader?
And so I think, if I'm being honest, sometimes I feel like a failure, like I'm not doing a good job, right? They say that women can't have it all. And I'm not just those things, right? I'm also Tayla. I'm also a woman. I'm also a sister. I'm a mom. I'm a cousin. I'm a best friend. I'm a real estate agent. I am a mentee. So sometimes it does feel like I'm not doing the best job when I haven't seen my best friend in months. Um, and then like stop everything and say, listen, I'm outside, open the door.
Mhm.
And so I say that to say, when it comes to entrepreneurship, and I've been an entrepreneur since I was 13, I've never held like an actual W-2 job. I've never had insurance. I've been an entrepreneur since 13 when I was doing the paper route.
Okay.
I just understood what it meant to be of service and what it meant to provide a sense of like joy
Mhm.
and peace, and the exchange that people are willing to pay for information, relationship, and just overall service as a whole. It's it's been a journey, and I think, if I'm being honest with not just myself but those that are like, I want to be an entrepreneur, it is a difficult space to navigate.
Mm.
Because am I being the best mom that I can? Am I being the best real estate agent? Have I sold enough books this year? And so it's like meeting those goals and meeting those deadlines, but also understanding that as a parent, that is my first responsibility. That is that is my real legacy. It really doesn't matter how much money I made, even though it does fund the lifestyle that I desire to give my children. At the same time, a lot of children don't really care about what it is that you can give them, but what type of attention, what kind of affection, what kind of support
Mhm.
can you feed me, versus, how many trips did we take this year? Because you can have the same interaction and the same love and the same laughs right in your living room.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. Um, so real estate is more than just buying and selling properties. It's
Mhm.
about building communities. So how does your work as a political advocate and radio host influence the way that you approach to creating spaces where people can thrive? So I guess how does what you do, advocacy portion, influence what you do as a real estate? Do you also invest? Are you just a realtor, or do you do invest?
No, yes, investments, first-time home buyers, people that are now down, looking to sell their home. And you want to know, on topic, off topic. So I built my entire platform off of do not sell grandma's house. Generational wealth is making sure that we keep it in the family. Don't sell grandma's house. You know, find a cousin, a family member. And I had to face my own challenge. We recently, just like recently, as in the last 10 days, sold grandma's house because it was unmanageable. Our
Mhm.
elders purchase properties that are not feasible for them in their elderhood.
Yeah.
Stairs are impossible at a certain age, and not having family that were properly prepared to absorb that asset. It was probably one of the hardest things that I ever had to do, was acknowledge the fact that we were I don't think it even hit me yet that we did end up having to sell Nana's house, because nobody, and none of the younger cousins, none of the grandbabies, the neighborhood had some alterations that were not in the best benefit. And so it was difficult to navigate that space, and to have a better understanding of what does that mean for my clients. Because it's one thing to be like, don't ever sell grandma's house. It's completely different to say, listen, let's go through these checklists first to see if there's a solution here before we have to do this thing that we may ultimately have to do, right? And so, again, going back to informed decisions, what does it mean as far as generational wealth is concerned, and not just the house, but what does that look like as far as probate is concerned? Because unless, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I have a will, I have a poor man's will, I wrote everything down, I have a power of attorney. Unless you have a trust, your family is going to fight for everything that you
Mhm.
have or have not. Um, and so for me, real estate is so much more than buying and selling. It's about building a lasting foundation and ensuring that if we do have to sell Nana's house, what are we doing with the proceeds?
Yeah.
Instead of buying vehicles, instead of splurging, instead of doing all of these things that we wish we could have done if we had this liquid cash, where are we going to park it that's going to help us be prepared in the future, um, for the generations coming? And so, navigating difficult conversations that make people think differently about what the future can and should look like.
Hmm. Wow. That is awesome. And you highlighted a lot of truths that we fail to recognize. And it's almost like you don't want to talk about the elephant in the room, but you know that the elephant in the room needs to be talked about. Everyone, no one likes on how the family is going to get torn apart at grandma's funeral or this funeral. And there's so many ways now, where we can prevent it. But at the same time, it requires us to have that hard conversation that
Yeah.
sometimes we don't want to have. And then when we do, it's typically too late.
Yeah.
Um, so what role does storytelling play in your life, whether you are on the airwaves, mentoring a young entrepreneur, or helping a family find their dream home?
I think we as Americans, I think storytelling, like when you think about our history, when we think about our favorite movies, when you think about our favorite bedtime stories, it's telling you a story. When we think about the Bible, not everything in the Bible is actual and factual. It's sometimes a parable. It's a
Hmm.
story to help you relate, to help you understand. And for many of us that, the fire's hot, the fire's hot, the fire's hot. And then they touch the fire, it's just like, damn, that's hot. It's just like, I tried to tell you. But if I tell you the story about the sun that flew too close to the sun, the man
Hmm.
who flew too close to the sun, melted his wings and fell to the ground. It's just like, that's imprinted in you. You now don't just think fire is hot. You're like, listen, the fire is so hot that it can melt my wings and I'll fall to the ground and die. So it's like, it's a
Mm,
different type of impression. It's a different type of memory spark. And as humans, we gravitate more towards storytelling. And um, I have a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old. And I remember when they were both little, they used to be like, Mommy, can you tell me a story? And so I would just tell these stories that they would fall asleep to. And they would just be like random things that I wanted to teach them, but
mm,
didn't think that they would listen to if I was just like, don't be in the car with a friend if you think a friend has drugs because you have drugs too. It's completely different when I'm talking about, the kids were together and they were riding their bikes together, and one kid threw a rock through the window and all of them got in trouble. It was just like, oh,
mhm.
all of them got in trouble. And now my kids to this day is just like, hey, don't be with those friends that throw rocks through windows because you're gonna be the one getting in trouble for it. So it's like it's
You're gonna be getting in trouble for them.
yes. And so it's like you remember things differently, and you kind of
Mm,
take these stories more affectionately than just, you know, someone told me a story about a thing, or this someone told me not to do this thing. It's just like, no, I remember this story that pulled on my emotions and made me excited, made me scared. And that's how I tend to, talk to my clients in real estate. And I wrote a book, Finally Home, the step-by-step guide for people preparing for first-time home ownership. And in the book, I give the example. So if your cousin who has never paid anybody anything back ask you for $100, are you going to give that $100 to them knowing you're going to get it back? Or are you going to give that $100 to them knowing that you will never see it again? Or are you not going to give them that $100 at all because of their history, versus your best friend says, listen, I need $1,000 right now. And you go get that $1,000, give it to best friend because best friend's going to make sure you have it back in your hand, and maybe possibly with interest. And
mm,
so it's just like, oh, absolutely. I'd give my best friend, da, da, da. Like I got a cousin that I wouldn't give $10 to. And
mm,
that example, that story is like, damn, that's just how credit is. And so if you have bad credit, why would I give you more knowing that you didn't know how to be responsible with what I gave you previously? Why would I give you a mortgage if you couldn't handle a $5,000 credit card? It puts it in a different type of perspective. It's just like, damn, I didn't think about it like that. You're right.
yep.
So I think storytelling is the ultimate way of teaching. And when you think about history, especially Black people in history, that's how we shared most of the knowledge that we have today. A lot of the things that we do as Black people, we have no idea why we do them, but they were told to us in story and
Mm,
showed to us in real life. And, we are attached to them in that way.
yep. Yep. So your ability to navigate media, business, and advocacy is unique. What's one skill or mindset you've developed that helps you excel in these diverse places?
Um, it's gonna break. It's not gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. It's not. It is a raging river, and you do not control it. You just navigate it. And so I
Mm,
think that's one of the things that has helped me the most, like especially in real estate. Those transactions don't never go the way you think they're gonna go. Buying, selling. You think this is going to be the easiest transaction. It ends up being absolute nightmare. The ones that are just like the husband and wife want to, chop each other's heads off, those end up being the smoothest transaction. I expect the absolute best to happen. But then I'm also mindful that it could go absolutely to left field. And if it does, I believe enough in God that no matter the valley, no matter the mountain, he, she, they has my best interest at heart. And so if it didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to happen, it's because I am being protected from something that does not need to I do not need to experience. And if
Wow.
that's the case, then case or whatever is will be. But I
Mhm.
do, for the most part, think that humans innately are good. People innately want to help you. And for the most part, people have your best interest at heart, because I do believe that I treat people the way that I want to be treated. So I'm going to be surrounded with the same people who desire to be treated the way they treat other people, the way that they want to be treated. And if there's an anomaly that takes place and someone wants to mistreat me, let me tell you, oh my God, good luck. Because
Yes,
I'm
I
one of
hear
the
that
ones
one.
he don't play about.
No.
So,
That is awesome. I hear that. Okay, so as someone who advocates for equity and diversity in both real estate and politics, what's one systemic change you would like to see, and how do you use your various platforms to advocate for it?
don't make me cry, girl. I truly wish that, so being a black woman in real estate, I understand that a lot of my peers do not understand history. And so in the book, Finally Home, the step-by-step guide for people preparing for first time home ownership, the first chapter is a historic timeline starting with Dred Scott not being human, and him being property and not being a citizen and not being able to fight and sue for what was rightfully his, because you're not a citizen, you're property.
Mhm.
All the
Yeah.
way up to 2024, where people had to take all likeness of blackness out of their house, have one of their white friends come over so they can get a proper appraisal. And
Mhm.
so for me, I would love, um, I would love to see the National Association of Realtors do more than put out a press release that says, we're sorry for the harm that we caused. I would love to see what that study looks like as far as generational wealth and how much wealth was stolen from Black, Latinos, Asians during the time when the federal government and the National Association of Realtors worked together and was instrumental in the inability of Black people to purchase property. And so I think for me, there's not enough his, her, our story being told in regards to home ownership. And though a lot of people are like, oh, I grew up in the hood, I grew up in a ghetto, what you don't understand is how that ghetto and how that hood was created on
Mhm.
purpose for you to be and stay. And I have a client right now that lives in a predominantly Caucasian neighborhood. She purchased 2 years ago. Her daughter was recently had the police called on her because she looked like they didn't belong there. Luckily, the police officer that responded to the incident was like, yeah, no, go about your evening. I hope you have a good night. And so I wish that, because the National Association of Realtors, you have dues and they're heavy, and they're monthly. I mean, they're monthly, yearly dues that you have to pay. I would love to see a percentage of that dues go towards first time home buyers, specifically to right the wrong of Black home ownership that they stole from millions of people. And how do I use my platform? I talk about it. I run my mouth. And I know it's something that a lot of Black realtors, this is the first time I'm actually saying this out loud, but I released myself of my Rhode Island license, because Rhode Island is one of the states that requires you to be a realtor in order for you to have access to MLS and to be a licensed real estate agent. And I fought. I went all the way up to the national level, fighting the national level that let me keep my license. I do not want to pay you. And they said, okay, that's cool. Then you have to pay for the opt out version. And I'm like, the harm that you caused, I shouldn't have to pay nothing. So there should be a clause in there that says, hey, if they come to us and say that they don't want to pay because of the harm that we caused, they don't have to pay, leave them alone.
Yeah.
But they have a universal, and it's not all states, it's some states. And Rhode Island is one of them. And I released myself of my Rhode Island license because I'm not paying the National Association of Realtor dues when you have yet to pay your dues for the harm that you caused.
Mm. It is true.
And just talking about it and educating people and informing. And, I know a lot of realtors that are Black and Latino and they don't know the history. And I tell them, and they're like, well, I have an R next to my name. And so it is a little frustrating when that R is more important than, I don't want to say character because I cannot judge someone's character because they want to practice in a certain state. But, it's for them to say like it's a necessary evil. What am I going to do? Fight the establishment? And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we do.
That's exactly it. So, with the information that you're bringing up, and I know a lot of people say that affirmative the Civil Rights Act was it didn't really help Black people, that it was there for mainly for women and women rights. Do you expect to see a fallout from the changes that have been made to the Civil Rights Act affecting affirmative action and real estate, like the environmental standards that was passed in 1994, and with the apology coming out in 2024 from the Realtor Association, and then now the repeal of certain environmental factors for civil rights. Do you see that those things might actually change some perspectives or make someone dive into history more to learn more about what they have just pretty much surrendered?
I think if you've ever attended like a neighborhood association meeting or a community development meeting or like any type of advocacy meeting situation, you will find the same 15 faces in the room. Those are going to be the 15 faces that do the homework, that do the research, that do their due diligence. The other people are like, how does that directly affect me today? Oh, it doesn't. Surface level, it does not.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to, bother myself with it. I think there are a selected few of us that do go through that rabbit hole and do seek to understand. And in our seeking to understand, we get frustrated at facts, do what we can for advocacy, and just understand this is a literal marathon, like your whole life. And when I was younger, I actually have a BA in poli-sci, in political science. I thought I was going to come out of college and change the entire world with common sense politics. But then you're young, you're naive, and you realize that the theory of politics is not the practice of the politics. And that whatever it is you think is right, whatever is currently happening that is wrong, is not going to be changed immediately. It's not going to be changed overnight. And it may not be changed in your entire lifetime. And so I think those that are invested will do what they can. And those that aren't won't.
Mm.
Um, I don't think that's something that you can force people's hands with, but I do find it interesting that 60% of DEI hires are white women, which means 10 out of 10 people hired, six of them are white women. This is DEI practices. Uh,
Mhm.
Black and Latino combined make up 36% of DEI hires, and Asian Americans make up 4%. And white women get promoted 2 times more often than Black, Latina, anybody else. And white women hold 32% leadership and managerial positions. Black women hold 4% of executive positions, and Latinas hold 2% of executive positions. I think
Mhm.
it's important for us to understand the numbers. Black men hold less than 3.2% of CEO roles for Fortune 500 companies, and Black workers make up 12% of the workforce, but only hold 8% of professional roles. So I
Mhm.
think it's important for us to know the numbers and for us to not just fly by the seat of what's being told to us. But we have Chat GPT today. There is no question that you can't ask that you won't get an answer to in 30 seconds or less.
That
And then
is.
if you need even further, please explain further, it'll give you a whole dissertation. So
Mhm.
and then read it to you. So I think in this day and age, there's no excuse for you not knowing. It just shows your desire to not know. Um,
Yes. But your a lot of people don't want to recognize it, but your ignorance to the truth, your desire for the ignorance versus the truth. So what's one piece of advice that you consistently give your mentees, whether they are aspiring entrepreneurs, real estate agents, or community leaders, or other advocates? What's one piece of advice that you consistently give them?
Due diligence, informed knowledge. I think that's probably down to my children. The more information you have, the better decisions you can make. The more due diligence you do, the better you can navigate different spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And so you you can never say like I didn't know, because if you even have a question, if there's any like I just said, if there's any question you have,
Yep.
you can get a direct answer. And there's some even like complicated questions that you may not be able to navigate with a bot or with AI. But don't for a second pretend like we don't have elders out here that have lived their 70 years, lived their 80 years, lived their 90 years, and have their sound mind and their able body and experiences galore that
Yep.
you can pick from. That's probably my favorite demographic of human is elders, and all that they have. Like if we just sat down with our elders, who would we be as a
Mhm.
society if that was
Wow.
our first course of defense, if that was our first person to question? Now let me be clear, not all our elders, not all elders are mature and give sound advice, okay? Because
True, true.
I got a couple elders that I would not ask any questions of. But there's a whole lot of them that if you just ask, they will talk for hours and give you everything you need to have the most successful, loving, happy life.
Yep. That is, man, it is so awesome. It's been great talking with you, Tayla André. Can you tell us the various ways that we can contact you, find out more about C Plan? Um, if someone wants to buy a home in Massachusetts, just give us all the information, your social media, website, telephone number.
Yes, yes. So it's everything Tayla André, TaylaAndre. Finally Home, the step by step guide for people preparing for first time home ownership, is not just about purchasing a property. I've made it mandatory for my children to read it, for their friends to read it, to get a better understanding of credit, budgeting, and financial literacy as a whole. And I have a 6-year-old. As soon as he turns 10, he'll be reading it as well. Aside from that, TaylaAndre.com. As far as real estate is concerned, I have an amazing team literally worldwide. And so I think it was really important to be build relationships, because I have clients that want to travel the world, that want to retire and live everywhere in the world. And so everywhere I travel, which that's probably my first love, relationships and how people navigate spaces, as far as buying and selling is concerned, from Dubai to Ethiopia, Dominican Republic, Costa Rica. However I can help, I will. And if it's not me, it's going to be somebody that I absolutely love, respect, and know is going to take care of you. Tayla André, TaylaAndre, for anything real estate, financial literacy. And I also do speaking engagements with youth and, of course, my elders.
Okay. All right. And can you put that book up one more time so we can see the cover and tell us where to get it?
Yes. So I turned into Master P. I said no. I used to actually sell them out of my trunk. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on my website. There's a few bookstores across the country that also carry the book. And not only is it a physical copy of the book, I also have an audio book, and a PDF version that is on the website, and it's in Spanish with a PDF version and audio version. And one of the things that I would love to say is, if you are a small business, aside from being on C Plan's board and Next Leadership Development's board, I'm also an executive member of Spark FM, which is a radio international media platform. And so if you're looking to get your business heard from other Black businesses and people, Spark FM Online is spearheaded by a Black woman here in Boston, and we would love to air your commercial or promote your business. And so you can reach out to me for that as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Tayla André, for coming on and being part of this session
Thank you
of
for
the Black
having me.
Business Expo. It has been great listening to you share your expertise and those lesson learned. And we've learned that, authenticity and due diligence, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, genius is common. And I'll see you on the other side.
Have a wonderful evening.
The Black Business Expo's mission is to raise funds for high schoolers, seniors going to college, or K 12 entrepreneurs. The expo is a fundraiser for students. You may go to www.theblackbusinessexpousa.com to donate to the scholarship fund, or use the Cash App that's on the screen below, $BBX USA. Our goal is to give laptops and up to $5,000 to 10 students. Students can register online at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com. Every dollar counts. So we want to remind you to donate to the scholarship fund. And we want to thank our Black Expo USA sponsors for January 2025. NC 100, Suede Soul, Carolina, Virginia Minority Supplier Development Council, Step Management, Margie McLean Foundation, Incorporated, Genius is Common, Executive Women's Success Institute, The Quality Coaching Company, Superwoman Business Services, Creative Force Studios, Lee Entertainment, Black Business Olympics, Artistic App Design, Banks Law Firm, and Black Business Expo USA. Genius is Common, and I'll see you on the other side.
Bravery is not the absence of fear.